They thought the German Shepherd had finally turned on their daughter. Every person in that house agreed. Every person in that house was wrong. Marisol Vega had worked pediatric home care for 9 years. She had seen what large breed dogs did when they fixated on a distressed infant. She had written the incident reports. She knew the warning signs by name, by posture, by the specific way a dog's body changes right before something goes wrong. She trusted that knowledge the way she trusted her hands. Rex was a 4-year-old German Shepherd, 91 pounds, black and tan, who had lived in their house on Clearwater Drive since before their daughter Sofia existed. He had always been calm around the baby, watchful, in the way working dogs are watchful, patient, deliberate, settled. For 13 months he had given the baby room. For 13 months, nothing about him changed. Then Sofia turned 20 months old, and everything changed. It started on a Tuesday. Sofia had been sick for 5 days. A respiratory virus that the pediatrician called mild, manageable, the kind of thing that comes through in autumn and leaves. By Tuesday morning, her fever had broken. She was sitting up. She was reaching for crackers. Every measure Marisol knew said recovery. But Sofia was crying in the way she sometimes cried when she was overly tired. That tight, low, inconsolable sound. And Rex moved across the kitchen floor and pushed his muzzle toward her face. Not her body, her face, her open mouth. He pressed his nose there for 3 seconds, inhaled, pulled back, then pressed forward again. Marisol crossed the room and said his name. He turned to look at her, and then turned back to the baby, and did it again. She recognized it in her chest before her brain named it. Fixation, overstimulation response, predatory pressure on a distressed infant. She had read this in case files. She had described this to parents sitting across from her in hospital corridors. She took Rex by the collar and moved him to the back of the house. Sofia stopped crying within a few minutes. Marisol held that like evidence. It happened again that afternoon. And the next morning, each time Sofia cried, Rex came to her face. Each time he was redirected. Each time he returned. On Thursday evening, Marisol's husband Thomas stood in the doorway of the nursery, watching Rex circle the room, and said it plainly. Something is wrong with him. She nodded. She had already been thinking about the neighbor who fostered dogs, about whether a temporary arrangement was possible. Just until Sofia was fully recovered. Just until they understood what they were looking at. That night, Thomas put Rex in the laundry room with his bed and a bowl of water, and closed the door. Rex did not bark. He scratched, steady and deliberate, at the base of the door for 4 hours, until Thomas came downstairs at 2 a.m. and told him quietly to stop. Rex went still. He lay against the door and stayed there. At 3:47 in the morning, Marisol woke to a sound she had never heard Rex make. Not barking, something below barking. A sustained vocal pressure that moved through the walls of the house and sat at the base of her skull. She was down the hall before she finished forming the thought. She opened the laundry room door. Rex went past her at a run. He went to Sofia's room, both paws on the crib rail, muzzle through the slats, nose pressed to the baby's face. Sofia was quiet. The wrong kind of quiet that Marisol had learned to fear in other people's children and had never once expected to find in her own. She lifted her daughter out of the crib. The limpness was not right. The skin was cool. The lips had a color she recognized from work. She called Thomas. She called 911. She used the clinical language because it was the only part of her brain that was still working clearly. Sofia's blood glucose at the emergency clinic registered 29 milligrams per deciliter. Normal flow for a toddler is 70. At 29, the brain has begun to starve. At 29, you are not measured in hours. You are measured in minutes. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Dr. Anessa Park, pediatric endocrinologist, explained what had happened across 2 mornings. Post-viral hypoglycemia. A known complication in toddlers whose bodies deplete stored glycogen during illness without triggering the visible symptoms a parent can read. Sofia's blood sugar had been falling for days. No fever, no crying, that sounded different. No sign that human senses could catch. But Rex had not been fixating. He had been. reading her breath. When blood glucose drops in a child, the body produces a volatile organic compound called isoprene. The concentration in exhaled air shifts across hours as levels fall. A dog registers that compound at parts per trillion, thousands of times below the threshold of human detection. Rex had been pressing his nose to Sofia's mouth because the number in her blood was getting worse, and he was checking it the only way he knew how. The face pressed to the crying baby's mouth. Not aggression, chemistry. The refusal to leave when he was redirected. Not defiance. An alarm that could not turn itself off. The 4 hours at the base of the laundry room door. Not separation anxiety. A guardian locked outside by the people he was trying to protect. The sound at 3:47 a.m. The last tool he had left. Has your dog ever done something you could not explain until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us, in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Dr. Park looked at them both and said, another 14 minutes and we would be managing permanent neurological damage. Sofia came home on a Friday. Rex was waiting at the front door. He walked beside Marisol to the nursery, lay down on the floor next to the crib, and put his chin on his paws. He was not agitated. He was not restless. He exhaled once and closed his eyes. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Marisol sat on the floor of the nursery that night, her back against the wall, watching Rex breathe. He didn't move for a long time. His ears tracked the sounds of the house, the way they always had. The baby slept above him, the glucose monitor on her arm blinking green in the dark, and Rex lay still on the floor below, keeping the watch he had always been keeping, that she had spent 3 days trying to stop. Tomorrow, a story about a dog who never barked once, and a night that silence saved a life.